Today we're going to be looking at supplementary and complementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. See how these are both 45 and they add up to 90? Complementary. Supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. A vertical angle is an angle that shares a common vertex, so a common corner. Notice how a vertical angle makes a V between it. The vertical angle theorem states that vertical angles are congruent. Now some jokes. Old people at weddings always poke me and say, "You're next." So I started doing the same thing to them at funerals. So this angle here is a 40-degree angle. So to review how to make an angle with a protractor, simply just put a dot here and here, and then connect your lines, or your dots. Now we want to extend our line today slightly. Looks like that. So the question today is going to be, what is the measure of this missing angle here? So you can find out what the missing angle measure is by simply saying, okay, well, this is acute, this opposite end here is obtuse, so I know that this has to be 140 degrees. So the missing angle measure then is 140 degrees. Let's do another one. Let's say I have for this one 130-degree angle. If you don't believe me, you can take a peek and see that it's 130 degrees. Okay, so we want to figure out what the missing angle measure is of this angle right here. Do that, you look above the 130 and see it's 50. Notice how this angle is acute, and this one is obtuse. Let's take a look at one more example. Number 3. So I have a line here, a straight line, and notice how it's straight up, so that's a 90-degree angle, so I'm going to place a little box next to it. So how much is this angle right here? Good, it's 90. It's also 90 over here. It's 90. Okay. What is something that you notice about all three of these questions? This one, and this one. Well, when I add these up, I get 180. Okay. When I add these up, I also get 180. And when I add these up, I also get 180 degrees. When two angles combine to make 180 degrees, this is actually a special angle, and we've talked about it in vocabulary. It's a supplementary angle. So this is one of those special angles when you combine two that equal 180. So a good way to remember, we'll come back to that actually. Okay, so let's say that we, actually we'll wait on that too. So continuing with these fancy special angles, supplementary angles, we're going to take a couple of questions here, and we're going to do them, but we're not going to measure with a protractor. Let's take this angle right here. Okay, so it's important to remember that straight lines are equal to 180 degrees. And that can be proved with a protractor such as this. See how a circle is a 360-degree turn? Well, a protractor is simply a 180-degree turn. So that's why it's 180 degrees, a straight line. So I know this is 77. What is S? Well, one trick to figure out what S is simply taking 180, subtracting it from 77. So I subtract these, I get 3, I get 7, so I end up with 103. So my missing angle measure is 103. Notice how this is not a 103-degree angle. It's not the scale. So using a protractor in this case will not work. Let's do one more like that. So we have a 130-degree angle here, and again, we can't use a protractor. So we have to figure out what P is. So first thing I notice is that I have a straight line. Straight lines add up to 180 degrees. So to figure out what P is, I'm simply going to take 180 and subtract it from 130. I get 50. Therefore, my missing angle measure is 50 degrees. Once again, these images, these angles are not to scale. So using a protractor is not going to work for these. Now instead of drawing straight lines that go all the way across your protractor, we're going to draw lines that simply just go halfway across your protractor. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line segment that goes from the bottom of your other line segment to this one. And that forms a 90-degree angle. 90-degree angles have boxes in the corner. Now through that 90-degree angle, I'm going to draw another line. Another angle that's 30 degrees. So how can I figure out what my missing angle is here, where this question mark is? I'm taking a look here. Do you remember how much a 90-degree angle has to add up to? 90 degrees. It's a 90-degree angle. 30 degrees. So how can I figure out what the missing area is in here then? Well, you could subtract 90 from 30 to get 60. And that makes sense, because 60 plus 30 is equal to 90. Let's do one more like that. So here I've already drawn a right angle intersecting by another angle here. And this one I've measured is already 20 degrees. So without using my protractor, how can I figure out what my missing angle is right here? Well, I think about what number adds up to 90 from 20, and it's 70. 90 minus 20, 70. So it checks out. Now, we've had a lot of vocabulary today. The last thing we're going to talk about today is a vertical angle. If you remember from our vocabulary, it says a vertical angle are angles that share a common vertex, whose sides form opposite rays. So I'm going to start off by drawing a line, a straight line. Number 3. We have here a line that's intersected. I'm going to give you, well, let's look here. Let's measure this angle here. So let's measure this one on the inside. And that ends up being 50 degrees. Based off our definition of vertical angles, it says that these two angles are congruent. Remember that vertical angles sort of make like an X between it like this. So if this is 50, congruent means the same. This is also 50 right here. So how would I figure out then what this angle is here? Well, that goes back to our supplementary angles tricks we learned earlier. If this is 50 here, maybe you remember, don't have to necessarily use your protractor. You get 130. So now, based on what you know about vertical angles, if this is 130 here, therefore this needs to be 130 as well. And just to prove it, when you turn it upside down, you can see that it ends up being 130 degrees. What's one more thing you notice about this example here? Well, it's going underneath the line. Most of the time we've had circles, or I should say angles, that only go halfway, or half circle. This is a full circle. So the sum then of all four of these angles should be 360 degrees if you did it correctly. So to wrap things up today, I do want to do a couple more examples. Before we do that, I just want to talk to you about how to tell the difference between complementary and supplementary angles. So when I look at complementary angles, I notice that they form sort of a corner. And complementary starts with C. Think corner, think C. Also, notice how there's one P in complementary. If you turn the P around and add a 0, that equals 90. When you think about supplementary angles, think about the S in supplementary. Notice how supplementary angles form a straight line. So think straight line, supplementary, S. Notice how there's two P's in supplementary. If you write those backwards, you get 9. Add 2 zeros, 90 plus 90 is 180. So summing up, complementary, think corner. Corners are 90 degrees. The P backwards is 9. Add a 0, it's 90. Supplementary, straight. S, straight and supplementary. Flip the P's around, 9 and 9, add 2 zeros, you get 180. Just so we can finish things up and do a couple more practice here, let's just do a few random examples here. So here we have an angle, and right off the bat I notice something. What do you notice? I notice that I have an angle that is 90 degrees. And remember, that's a complementary angle. Think corner, think 90 degrees. So how would I figure out then what my angle is for P here? I would just take 90 and minus it from 27. So I do 10 minus 7 is 3. And I get 63. So my missing angle measure is 63. Can't use a protractor to measure this because it's not the scale. Let's do another one. I'll come back to that one. Here we have a straight line. And remember, straight lines add up to 180 degrees. Because we can't use a protractor here, we're going to have to take 180 and subtract it from 69. So then my missing angle measure is 111 degrees. Let's do one more question here. This is another special type of angle. It's a vertical angle. Vertical angles are congruent, which means they're the same. So if we have a 30-degree angle here, therefore this is 30 degrees. And the challenge is a little bit further. What would the missing angle measure be of this question mark here? In this case, you're going to have to think back to the rules for supplementary angles. Supplementary angles say they have to add up to 180 degrees. And 180 minus 30 is 150. Now that we know that the question mark is equal to 150, what is the angle opposite that? Well, that's also going to be 150. Remember that angles like this have to add up to 360 degrees. So if you took the time and you added these together, you would see that they added up to 360. Just want to thank you for coming in today. It's been a real pleasure. You've been a great audience, and I really appreciate all the hard work you've done. I've got a bag of dates here I'm going to eat. They're really terrible, but they get the job done. Have fun.